This is the Gen Y Leaders Podcast. Welcome to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast, where we guide millennials to become the next generation of business leaders and entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Eric Huey, and multiple times a month, we bring you interviews from high-performing millennials who are challenging perceptions and changing expectations of our generation. Our mission is to help you overcome fear, take action, and go confidently in the direction of your dreams. It's time to start preparing now, mainly because 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every day, which will create a vacuum of career opportunities that you've been waiting for. Will you be ready? Warren, welcome to the Gen Y Leaders Podcast.
Hey, Eric. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate your time and coming on. If you could, just give us the rundown of who you are and what you do.
I am the co-founder and the CEO of an audio-first learning company called Knowable. And I've been an entrepreneur for the past 10 years. I'm an alum of Harvard, and I am a first-generation American. My parents immigrated from Eastern Europe a couple of years before I was born.
Very cool. Tell us how Knowable got started, kind of the origin story, if you will.
I got hooked on audiobooks when I was a teenager. And back then they were actually called books on tape, and they were decidedly uncool.
People had Walkmans and the cassette tapes and CD.
Totally. It's hard to remember how much things have changed, but not just the format, but also the perspective on audiobooks. And people really looked at me like I was illiterate if I told them I listened to a book rather than read it. Yeah. And it's nice to see that there's been a real change in society. And now audiobooks are seen as a way for people to read more, even when they can't stare at a book. And really Knowable was born out of the idea of how do we further that mission and really help people learn in the best way possible when their eyes are occupied.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The kind of passive content or passive learning where you can put in earbuds and take the dog for a walk or work out or do chores around the house and still digest some content and learn, and I think is definitely a game changer. So kudos to you guys for being in front of that. Describe the format for us as far as, what's someone who downloads the app, what's that going to look like for them on a daily basis, or what the user interface looks like?
What we want for Knowable is basically to think of what if your favorite podcast and a great audiobook and a great learning platform happen to have a baby somehow. Yeah. And so what that means is audio that feels like it's audio first. And so in some ways it can be conversational and story driven, like a great podcast, but also is very distilled and to the point, like a great book. Mm-hmm. And on the learning platform side, what I mean is we do things like streaks. We're building in community. So basically you can come into the app and listen to a short lesson and have a green check mark that basically rewards you for feeling like, hey, while I was walking the dog, I took some time to learn about becoming a better manager or partner or parent, whatever it is that you're trying to improve on.
Warren, can you describe for us what it looks like from the, content development side going in? I mean, who are you working with to get this content on the platform? Are they experts in their fields? Are they authors? What's that look like?
Great question. We work largely with authors and writers, people who have already distilled and done a lot of deep thinking on a particular area, or are practitioners and have a lot of success in their field. So Alexis Ohanian is the founder of Reddit. He also has written a book about launching a startup and his experience launching Reddit. And he created a 6-hour course on Knowable about how someone can go and start their own business. And it's different than kind of a podcast about startups because it goes deeper, right? And it really is trying to help somebody take those first steps and succeed on their journey of being a startup. Or we work with people like Scott Kelly, who's the astronaut who lived in space the longest of any American. He was on the International Space Station for nearly a year. And he's also an author, but he did a course on leadership on Knowable, and where he talks about what he's learned and there's just many other people like him and Alexis who are on the platform sharing passionately what they wish other people would know.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of credibility too.
There's some really great people. Chris Paul, who's an NBA All-Star,
Wow, yeah.
has a course on Knowable that's exclusive to us, and we're opening up the platform to more and more creators. We're building systems for creators to contribute in easier ways. And so, if you are an expert in your field, I highly encourage you to sign up, both as a creator and a listener.
For sure. Yeah, we'll be sure to link to it in the show notes for anyone who's listening.
Thanks.
Kind of furthering down the route of maybe, I guess, product differentiation or app differentiation. How would you say Knowable is differentiated from something like Blinkist or something maybe like a Masterclass, something like that?
Yeah, great question. So I'll start with Masterclass. The obvious difference there is that we're audio first versus Masterclass is video first. And you asked earlier about what was the aha moment for me. Well, I think Masterclass is a brilliant idea, but I find it really hard to find the time to stare at a video screen for that long. And so I wanted to be able to learn from great minds while I was moving through the world. And partly because I became a parent, and I don't know if you have kids, Eric, but they take up a lot of time.
Yeah, they do.
And, and so audio first is a big differentiator from Masterclass. And really, I think we go a little bit harder on the learning side than they do. And Blinkist is also a really cool product. But what they do is they basically just do book summaries. Mm-hmm. And what we do is actually, we have original content that's made for audio. And Blinkist is a German company, and a lot of their stuff sounds very German. Yeah. We try to really bring what it makes a great podcast feel great is enthusiasm from the host, stories, etc. And so that's all on Knowable, and not something that I am seeing a lot of on Blinkist. But both great companies and great products, but we are very different.
Yeah, that makes sense. Appreciate that. Talk a little bit about, as you're growing Knowable, what was kind of your first market echo or positive feedback loop to where like, oh man, this is going to be something, this is going to take off?
For me, it was actually first having founder market fit. And so you hear a lot about this term in startups called product market fit. And that's when you have a product that is working really well, then a lot of people are using it. But there's a step before that, which is, does the founder have some personal connection to the mission and the product that will make them feel really excited? And so I had that immediately. There was this big aha moment for me of, wow, I want to use this product because I just can't. There's so many great video platforms out there, but I don't have the time to take these long courses. And I want something like this. So that was the first, strong gut feeling. And this is my third company. And so having that click early was a great indication. And then Alexis Ohanian, who I mentioned earlier, he's the founder of Reddit. We happened to know him from a previous company, pitched him the idea, and he immediately responded and said, I'm in, I want to be your guinea pig. This is really cool. And so that was also another, on the creator side of, okay, there's something here.
Validation.
It's a lot easier. Yeah, exactly. Validation is a great word. We realized that it's a lot easier to make an audio course than it is to make a video course, right? You can do it in your pajamas and share your knowledge. And that idea, I know your podcast is called Gen Y, right? As that idea of unlocking knowledge and helping people both share their knowledge and learn more is such a powerful idea for me. I've seen firsthand how a great teacher can change the trajectory of somebody's life, and to scale that in an audio first way, I think is a really compelling and exciting why.
Definitely. I love what you said about the founder fit. I think that's something a lot of people don't think about. I think aspiring entrepreneurs often chase, what's sexy and chase, whatever is the coolest, NFTs, crypto, whatever it may be. But do you have experience? Do you have any credibility in that's going to, benefit you in pursuing that endeavor? So I think it's really wise to be thinking of maybe your domain experience or, where you've garnered most of your knowledge or skill sets in your career, and kind of using that to leverage where you start a business at.
I'd caveat that and basically say what's most important is, does the problem that you're solving excite you? Do you feel excited genuinely about solving this problem? And you can try to solve a problem that you don't have a ton of experience on, but you want to get comfortable that, NFTs is something that's going to sustain your interest for years.
Right.
And that you feel in your gut some connection to the problem that you're trying to solve, and therefore the solution that you hope you will find for that problem.
Well said. So that's a perfect segue into our topic for the day. So a lot of times, every episode, I'm speaking with entrepreneurs, and the focusing question is, if you had to speak to a room full of 100 entrepreneurs, what would you teach them, or how would you inspire them, maybe more broadly? And before this recording, you had mentioned to take notice. And so, Warren, at a high level, could you elaborate on that and what you mean by that?
Sure. First off, Eric, I think it's such a great question. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
The reason I said take notice as my 2-word advice is because noticing internally what drives you and noticing externally what drives others is a sure recipe for success as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And you almost by definition can't be successful if you don't notice first what really drives you, right? You won't know that you succeeded if you don't have a sense of what success is for you. And different people are wired differently. And it's very easy to get caught up in the conventional definition of success. And often I think wise people realize that what's true for others isn't necessarily true for them, right? To the point earlier of there's a lot of hype right now around NFTs and crypto. But if you are just starting out and that space doesn't interest you at all, notice that and notice whether you're being true to yourself when you are pursuing an idea, because this isn't a dress rehearsal, right? We all have one shot at this life, and to drive towards someone else's dreams without first questioning your own is a blueprint for not succeeding.
Right. Yeah.
So that's on the internal side.
Always good to be self-aware, for sure.
I think on the external side, so there's the other side of that coin, right?
Sure,
Which is obviously you want to notice yourself and notice what gives you energy and try to spend as much time as you can doing the stuff that gives you energy. And then the other side is externally noticing. And oftentimes entrepreneurs have to make some leap, right? They're looking not just for the obvious first order change that's happening in society, but what's the second order principle too, right? Noticing these patterns that happen. Okay, when one thing changes, right? Okay, there's a bunch of talk about NFTs. Well, maybe you don't have the expertise to create a new blockchain platform, but you notice that every time there's a change, there are new opportunities that emerge, right? So a podcast about NFTs where you are interviewing NFT enthusiasts is a really interesting second order indication of noticing, right?
Yeah.
Noticing that these things have to happen whenever there is a change.
Definitely. Yeah. Great concept, for sure. I would be remiss if I forgot to ask. It's usually one of the first questions, but we kind of skipped over it. What is your personal why? I mean, we talked about your kind of business why, as far as noticing the market need and that you're passionate from a skill set and experience standpoint, but what drives you at a personal level?
I love this question too. So thanks for asking, Eric. I heard recently, and I unfortunately don't know who said it, but basically, if you want to figure out your why, you think about what you were missing as a kid and you try to provide that to others. And for me, that question really resonated. I grew up financially insecure. I had very loving parents, but first generation American, and just didn't have our finances in order. And the idea of helping people turn their knowledge into a business is a really powerful why for me. It's to my core, right? This idea of, wow, not only can I help people learn more and unlock knowledge by helping creators, but also at a core, helping somebody take their knowledge and turn it into a business and become more financially stable is my why.
Definitely. That's awesome. That's very concrete. I'd never heard it been put that way, as far as think about what you didn't have as a kid and kind of fulfill that mission. That's really cool. I'll have to do some thinking on that, and I encourage our audience to do the same. So thanks for that. Warren, a couple key questions we ask every guest as well is in terms of books or knowledge development. Obviously, Knowable itself is a great resource, so we'll plug that. But are there any books or authors or people that have inspired you along the way in your personal or professional life that would also encourage other entrepreneurs?
So many. I'm a big bibliophile. I think if my second piece of advice to that group of 100 people would be read books. And if you can't find time to read books, then listen to audiobooks, right? So I've gotten so much from reading, and it's something that compounds. Off the top of my head, some books that I've read recently that I thought were wonderful. One of them is called The Joys of Compounding. It's written by an investor, and his argument in that book is basically every decision you make is an investment decision, right? So if you can think of yourself as an investor, you realize that you have a limited amount of time to allocate in any day. So allocate your time on things that compound. And so that's relationships, financial planning, health, these important things that can compound. That was a great book. I'm reading another one called Your Brain at Work. And it's basically about the neuroscience of what is going on inside your brain during a typical day. And just understanding that there are these different parts of your brain that are sometimes at war with each other. That meta awareness is so powerful. And it's just a great book. And Americana is a book that one of my investors, Mark Suster, recently recommended to me. It's about an Indian immigrant and his realization that a lot of why people come to America is not just for democracy, but actually for economic opportunity, right? And that's such a big driver for us as a species, is this idea of upward mobility. Other books, Working Backwards is written by a couple of Amazon execs. I loved that book. I thought it was just a great principle for whether you're launching a product or a company or trying to get to the airport on time, just work backwards from where you want to be.
Awesome. Appreciate those recommendations.
Sure.
Yeah, we'll be sure to link those in the show notes as well for anyone watching or listening. Warren, where can people get Knowable as well as follow you and support you?
Check us out on knowable.fyi or on Twitter @knowable_FYI. I'm on Twitter as well. My handle is @WWShafe. And I would love to hear from any of your listeners, and feel free to message me.
For sure. And then they can get it at pretty much any of the app stores or Google Play Store, anything like that.
That's right. Yeah, we're available on iOS, on Android, and on web.
Awesome. Perfect. Warren, thanks so much for your time on the Gen Y Leaders podcast. Good luck to you. I have no doubt that Knowable will continue to succeed.
Eric, thank you so much.
That wraps up today's episode. We hope to have brought you some valuable key takeaways. Most importantly, whatever you learned, take action on it. Apply it to your life. Apply it to your career. Motivation and inspiration only come as a result of taking that first step. So if you're enjoying the podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe on whichever platform you found the show. You can also follow us on all the major social media platforms or contact us directly at genwhyleaders@gmail.com. That's GENWHY leaders@gmail.com. Until next time, I'm Eric Huey, and thanks for listening to the Gen Y Leaders podcast.